His name is Jacob Barber, and he says that for the past 30 years, he's worked in both an official and unofficial capacity for the United States government and its partners in the intelligence community. What he knows and what he's here to tell Congress could change the world as we know it.
We're in this rare opportunity in human history where it's very clear that we know that there are things flying in the sky that are unexplained and ununderstood. And that's another one of the things that I'm uniquely providing information on.
So what makes this guy special? Well, but Mr. Barber is different. He says that for years he was part of that covert program, working with alien spacecraft.
Multiple highly qualified special operations officers vouched for the testimony of Jacob Barber that this or similar objects are actual UFOs, these egg-shaped UFOs. And what they do is they use a psionic asset to use telepathy to actually land these UFOs that look like eggs, or what they call eightgons, these eight-sided octagon flying saucers. And they co-pilot them with telepathy and remote viewing, bring them down on the ground or crash them, and then Jake Barber's special operations and Delta Force units go out and collect them with helicopters and crash recovery teams.
But my grandparents were still always there, making sure I had some outlet for certain things. And so they got me involved with an art program and a music program. I'll have to tell you, so my Navy grandfather, he was the superintendent. He got his doctorate in education. And by the time I had graduated high school, he had retired as a superintendent of our school district. So he was a very influential man.
And I understand he ran the gifted and talented education program for that school district.
Yeah, you could say he was the ambassador for this area for the GATE program, which was a program for gifted and talented kids.
Were you pulled out of class and tested as part of the Gifted and Talented GATE program? Here's some deja vu. Listen to this.
This is the first step along your path to a gateway.
Does that sound
A
familiar?
gateway beyond which is discovery. Your own discovery of reality, of truth, of who and what you are.
Do you remember doing the tests with the colored yarn on the pegboards or the little wooden boards with the nails when you were doing the audio test? Or did they have you do the flashcards where you're supposed to try and guess the colors and the shapes? Were you actually tested as part of a gifted and talented program, or were they actually testing to see, as part of a government program, if you had telepathy?
Move your body into a more relaxed position.
If this is familiar to you, let me know.
And I understand he ran the gifted and talented education program for that school district.
Yeah, you could say he was the ambassador for this area for the GATE program, which was a program for gifted and talented kids. And my personal experience with that was great. It was, I just got pulled out of normal class a couple of times a day, at least twice, and got to go to a private classroom where I had one-on-one time with a staff member there who played a lot of games with me inside and outside. And we ran a number of creative classes together. And outside of that, I also, after school, I would attend, I had a private art teacher, I learned music. And so I felt like I had a unique education experience as a kid. My grandfather also got me involved in water polo and swimming. He was a diver and a swimmer. And water polo became a great outlet for me. I found the year I was expelled. At this time, my grandparents decided to hold an intervention, and I don't even think my parents or step-parents know, but the two men got together and met with me and decided to research military programs that would be available at that time. And so we made several trips down to UCLA, to an office near there, and I began going through a series of tests of all kinds. There were physical, physiological, psychological, creative tests. And we assumed that, all of this was pretty typical.
You know now, don't you, that the US Air Force has been secretly testing people through the GATE program for certain psychic abilities.
Yes.
Were you tested?
Yes. I'll tell you, I know others that I've come to meet through the program that we'll talk about that were in a psionic program that have a very similar backstory. But for whatever reason, I was not used in that way. Again, my creativity and intuition resulted in, as I've shared with you before, being used for creative war games, being very creative in war games.
So let's just go through the credentials of each of these people that vouched for Jake Barber. And it is amazing because if this is a real UFO, this is completely groundbreaking. It tells us a lot about our reality, that we're not alone, that these are built or part of a non-human intelligence form of life that is not human, but it also tells us about ourself, our abilities as human beings with telepathy and remote viewing. If somehow there are specialists and special operators as part of these teams that are able to take telepathic control of these UFOs, bring them down and land them or crash them, what does that mean about us and who we are and what reality is and how that works? And is that the big secret that's being kept from us by these secret departments? They don't want us to become telepathic and remote viewers or psychic spies. Like, that is amazing that they have psionic assets that are used to use telepathy to actually bring these UFOs down. If it's a real UFO, this is absolutely amazing. So let's go through the credentials of these individuals so you get an idea of how real this actually is. So Jake Barber, he's a U.S. Air Force veteran and former aerospace mechanic who advanced the Elite Air Force Combat Controller Unit. Basically, that means the Air Force's version of a Navy SEAL. They go in behind enemy lines under covert operations, and they actually take control of a situation or steal a target or an asset or something that has been crashed or gone missing. It says he became a contractor for the Department of Defense after 9/11 and other intelligence agencies operating under non-official cover for classified UAP retrieval missions. He also has experience as a helicopter pilot, free fall parachutist, and expert marksman. So highly qualified, and he even put out all of his credentials, but it even gets deeper. There's Don Paul Bales. He served as law enforcement and participated in non-official covert operations involving UAP and classified aircraft recovery. His expertise in covert operations made him a valuable asset in retrieval missions. Fred Baker is a special warfare operator with experience in covert operations and advanced technology recovery. He witnessed psionic individuals interacting with UAPs and vouches for Jake. This is John Glitch, Lieutenant Colonel. He is retired from the U.S. Air Force with a background in Delta Force as a sniper, special operations officer, and a nuclear weapons battalion commander. Amazing. So here you see them all teamed up with a psychic spy, psionic asset. They refer to him as a remote viewer that uses telepathy to basically find and take control and then pilot these egg-shaped UFOs down to the ground. And then Jake Barber, Don Paul Bales, Fred Baker, and Lieutenant Colonel John Glitch, or teams of similar capacity, would go out once it's down on the ground and collect it. And then they bring it back to another spot, and then maybe another team comes and gets it or whatever. And this is for all kinds of secret U.S. technology that goes down, like probably stuff from Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and other payloads. But definitely all these guys are vouching and saying that these are also involving non-human intelligent craft, UFOs, flying saucers. They call them these egg-shaped UFOs, and and then the eightgons, they call them. These are like the octagon-shaped flying saucers that are like a stealth craft, like the classic ones that you see. So it's really mind-blowing when you think about it. What does this say about us, our reality? Are we actually living with ultra-terrestrials or extraterrestrials and non-human intelligence. Why are they shaped like cosmic eggs or these amazing eggs? A lot of people think that they're blimps or balloons. I think that's just nonsense. You don't need a helicopter of special forces units and Delta Force operators to go and retrieve a blimp. You just need 2 guys with a truck to do that. So I think that's kind of silly.
Ask him, how'd you know what to do? And he said, well, all I did was look inside. And then he drew out how things were related inside that had never been published. And it turned out that they were accurate. And so it was when I wrote all that up and circulated around, that's when the CIA came knocking at my doorstep. And he said, oh, we've been looking for you. And I said, why? What'd I do? He said, well, the Russians have been spending millions of dollars at their best institutes with their best people for years. No scientist in America even believes there's such a thing as psychokinesis or ESP or whatever. And you happen to do this experiment. And so, we graduated from there to having remote viewing of super secret facilities, project titles, hidden in safes. That's how the whole program got started. It ended up being a 20-year, $20 million program.
Ingo is really the father of remote viewing in the modern era.
Ingo Swann also, like it or not, used to paint a lot of cosmic eggs. Several of his paintings, when you go look up Ingo Swann's artwork, he would draw these psychic landscapes in these alternate dimensions, and inside them he would draw these eggs, and inside the egg would be like cracked open, and it would be like a doorway to this other universe. So he used to paint this all the time. So I find that fascinating now that the UFO crash recovery program is like coming out and they're showing footage of them actually capturing 20-foot eggs, egg-shaped UFOs.